I met my wife also here on Facebook in the year 2021 October. Then, I was doing my master's degree in Germany. She was working with Lapo as a client support officer. We started chatting, and then it resulted in us chatting every night. She was so lively and could communicate very well that there was nothing we could not discuss. I must say I just fell in love with her, and I decided to visit her that year in December. When I got to Nigeria in December, I wanted to invest my savings in developing my land. But this time, we were already discussing marriage, and so she advised me against the project. That instead, I should use the money to relocate her to Europe. So we can be together and the both of us can then work together and save enough money for the house project. I discussed this with some of my friends who advised me against it, but I didn't listen. I returned to Germany in January 2022, and I started planning the trip for her to come to Germany. She advised against Germany. She said we should do the UK, because with the UK we'll come as a couple, since I can come with her to the UK as her dependent. And more importantly, she will be able to start working immediately, as she will not need to learn German. She now introduced me to her cousin in the UK and asked me to call the guy that he would be able to help us. I did call the guy, and the guy now advised us to do caregiver sponsorship instead of a student visa. He even introduced us to the guy who would do the sponsorship visa for us, and the guy collected £8,000 from me. To cut a long story short, I paid all the money, and all expenses were paid by me, but my parents only insisted that before I could spend all that money at least we should be married. So, we fixed the wedding in October 2022. I went to Nigeria, we got married, and we started the process for the visa. In fact, everything was so fast, and we now moved to the UK by December 2022. Immediately we got to the UK, the whole trouble started. She called her cousin, who I later found out was her ex-boyfriend, to come and pick us. When the guy came, he took us to a hotel where we paid £139 for the room for that night. I wasn't having money, and I managed to pay only for the night. I talked to my wife in the night, and the next day, we couldn't continue because I didn't have the money to pay. I tried to reach everyone I know, called my friends in Nigeria and Germany, and a friend in Nigeria now told me to call his brothers in Leeds. I called the guy in Leeds who was ready to help us, and I told my wife that we needed to go to Leeds. Now, going to Leeds was not a problem for me, but for my wife, as the sponsor company was in London. So we now agreed that my wife will stay with her ex-boyfriend, who she claims is her cousin, for some time while I go to Leeds, before we can save to rent an apartment in London. Immediately I moved to London. My wife and the ex started their relationship again.
Anytime I called her, she wasn't willing to talk. She was always complaining, and even when I said I would be coming to see her during the weekend, she would bring up one thing or the other, and she was always giving different excuses. Again, she wasn't working. She went to training for the caregiver job, and she couldn't cope. I later found out that the ex-boyfriend went and put her with another girl from Nigeria, who came here for a master's. The two of them, that is my wife, and this lady were sharing the same room, a very small room the size of a bathroom in Nigeria. Meanwhile, I got a job in Leeds, and within 3 months, I rented my 2-bedroom flat, and I asked her to come over to Leeds. She refused on the ground that the company that gave her COS is in London, and she wants to try and start the job. In the meantime, I was paying rent in Leeds and London.
Since she isn't working, if I ask her to come and see me in Leeds, she will not. She is always demanding money from me. I haven't seen my wife for 6 months, despite we are both in the UK. My friends were telling me that she already had someone else that is the reason. I didn't believe, but deep down in me, I was restless. I knew something was wrong and I needed to act. So I took permission from work for 4 days, and I traveled to London. I got to London around 1 a.m. I had the address of the place she was staying, so I went there, intending to surprise my wife. When I rang the bell, the original tenant came to the door to open the door for me. She asked me who I was looking for, and I told her I was Vivian's husband. It was like she was shocked. She asked me again if I knew where I was going, or probably I come to the wrong address. I said no, that I have been transferring the rent money with the address as reference. She was quite confused, and she just asked me to come and showed me the room. She knocked on the door, called my wife, and informed her that the husband was there. I got the shock of my life after my wife opened the door after about 8 minutes. I got the shock of my life after my wife opened the door after about 8 minutes. In the small room with her was her ex-boyfriend, who she introduced to the lady that rented the room to them as her boyfriend. My wife was pregnant and she wasn't excited to see me. She started shouting, "Why should I come and burst into her place without prior notice?" I was shocked and heartbroken. Even the lady was like, "Your husband doesn't need permission to come to your place." Nevertheless, I didn't want to quarrel that night. It was already after 3 a.m. in the night. The ex-boyfriend just got ready and left, and my wife started hitting me. She was just provoking me. She tore my shirt. She was shouting that I should get out of the house or she would call the police. It was her landlady who said I should sleep in the sitting room since I didn't have anywhere to go that night. The next day, my wife refused to talk to me. All she said was that the marriage was over and that she was already pregnant with the ex-boyfriend's child. That when she settles down, she will pay me back the money I used to bring her to the UK. She told me that she was going to tell the Home Office that we are not together anymore, and as a result, I am no longer her dependent. That is how I left that morning back to Leeds. When I got back to Leeds, I told my friends everything that happened, and she said she would inform the Home Office that we were no longer together. So they advised me to look for my COS immediately. I talked to my boss in my place of work about my situation, and he said they would issue me the COS since they like my work, and they would not like to lose me. I was issued a COS free of charge, without paying even £1 for it. On the 28th of August, 2023, my wife gave birth to a boy in London. By this time, Home Office had already revoked her COS, because the Home Office blacklisted the company that issued her COS and asked all the staff to get a new COS or leave the country within 6 months. Since she planned that her ex, who she claimed was the father of her child, would give her paper. When she gave birth to the baby, the ex insisted on doing DNA, and it came out that the ex-boyfriend wasn't the father of the baby. So the ex-boyfriend refused to sign that he was the father of the child. As she was living illegally in the UK and the 6 months had elapsed, she was picked up in her place on December 2nd, 2023, and deported back to Nigeria. When she got back to Nigeria, she went to my parents' house to claim that I was the father of the child. She admitted that she was sleeping with the ex-boyfriend and that the only person apart from the ex-boyfriend she slept with is me. And if the child is not his ex-boyfriend's child, then it must be my child. I went to Nigeria in February this year, and we took the child to a hospital in Lagos to do the DNA, and the results showed that I am the father of the child. Now she is begging me to forgive her and take her back. Since I came back in early March, I haven't been able to make up my mind. My friends are all saying I will be the biggest fool if I take her back. That if I was the one that was deported back to Nigeria by now, I would have never heard from her again. My mom said I should forget about her also and move on with my life. But my dad said if I knew I loved her that much, we could make her come and swear that she would never do such again. Please, I want to know what people think about this. Should I make her swear and take her back, or should I just move ahead and forget about her? Please remember DNA confirmed that the child is my son.